What do you think is the fungi way?
I think the fungi already run the world, to be totally honest. And we're just
I mean,
kind
if
of
they're on our
late.
feet, they're running
We're
us,
late.
you know?
Yeah, we're late to acknowledging that.
Okay.
And not all cultures. There's so many cultures, like ancient cultures, that fully like are integrated with fungi, and they're like, oh yeah, we know. They run the world. They're our ancestors. But so yeah, I think they already run the world, and we're just kind of catching up especially in North America, kind of Western world, Western society to acknowledging that, and then being able to then again when we're acknowledging it, we see it like work with them more actively in beneficial ways.
So you just said something that just made me realize like we might be descended from primates, from other primates, but we might also be mixed with mushroom.
Yeah, we share common interests. I think it's like
Yeah.
300, don't quote me on this, but something like 300 or 600 million years ago, that's when kind of we diverged, like animals, fungi. But yeah, we go way back. We have a lot in common, a lot more than maybe we'd think.
Hmm.
And yeah, and they're already like essential to, it would take a long time to list like all the ways in which fungi are running the world already, and providing medicine, food, regulating our climate, being essential to like not only the carbon cycle but a whole bunch of other nutrient cycles, helping clouds form and being part of the water cycle, helping make soil so that we can like grow food, helping break down pollutants, helping plants grow. Like 95% of plants on Earth form relationships with this type of beneficial fungus that lives underground and forming that wood wide web people talk about, sharing information, protecting plant. It just goes
Yeah.
on and on. Like they're definitely running the world, and and it makes sense to, I think, for us to just kind of like show up more to that relationship.
So if fungi run the world, we just have to
Mhm.
show up to the relationship, like you said. If fungi run the world, then do they have a message for us? Like, should we be following their playbook a little bit better?
Yes, definitely. And I guess I can. Would it be weird if I shared a dream?
Yes, and I really want you to now.
Okay, I'll be a
Yeah,
weirdo.
let's get
I'll be
weird.
a weirdo right now. So I had this dream that I was like this mad scientist in space, though. It was cool. I was like on this like space station, and I had my little lab, and what I was learning how to do, so nerdy, but I was developing this method of inoculating anything. So again, inoculating, just like getting the fungi into anything, any type of material.
Inoculating things with fungi.
Yeah, and I
Okay.
used lasers to do it, of course, in my space station lab.
Okay.
Um,
Was
but I
this
had
was this during the vaccination? Is it
this,
that you had this dream? No.
so
Okay.
this is like
All
a
right.
really long time ago.
Okay.
Um, but basically, where I'm going with it, I had this mad scientist moment one night. Everyone's sleeping on the station. I go out, put myself in front of these lasers, and inoculate myself with fungi. So the reason I brought this up as a way of answering is because the rest of the dream, my consciousness was completely altered. I was no longer a human with all the like same, senses and ways of thinking about things. I was now a fungus. And I can tell you that the first thing I did was get into a little like space pod thing and go and explore other planets. And when I landed on other planets, the way that I the way what I was driven to do was to connect with all the different, like every possible organism or like thing that I could connect with, and figure out how we were going to relate. And so I bring that up because if you ask, like, yeah, what are fungi trying to tell us? There's so many different types of fungi, and they all live in really different ways, right? Some of them are parasites. And I think if you asked a parasite what they're trying to tell us, it would be different than if you asked like a mycorrhizal fungus that lives in beneficial relationships with plants. But what I will say is that I think fungi are trying to tell us to show up to the relationships, and not just human relationships, but to all the relationships in this web of life that we're beautifully part of and enmeshed with, and figure out like how we're gonna relate. Like, what is this relationship? Is it one where we're just gonna take and take and take for ourselves, or are we offering something to the relationship, like the mycorrhizae, right?
Oh. So it's
and
like,
arguably, yeah.
I was gonna say, like, it sounds like the more you learn about the fungi or the different functions that the different ones have, then you're going to learn about them. You're going to reflect on like, oh yeah, that's how I can show up to that relationship.
Totally.
Okay.
And that's how I can show up in the world. So, but I think in general, if I had to pick one message that I think the fungi are trying to tell us, beyond just like that question of like, how do you want to show up and relate in the world, would be something about balance. Like, so because whether it's a mycorrhizal fungus, a decomposer, or a parasitic fungus, they're all doing something to create balance in the larger system in a way that is so impossible to nail down as like an individual. And I think that's that piece of like, we are inextricably bound to these webs of relationships that support our lives. And there seems to be some type of balance that is found. And fungi often play some kind of balancing role, right? Whether it's like the ones people are scared of now because of the Last of Us, but like cordyceps that take over. In nature, it's actually insects. They take over their brains and turn them into kind of zombies and make them act funny. And then they fruit a little mushroom out of their brain.
Cordyceps do that?
Yeah,
I
totally.
take cordyceps.
Totally. They're an amazing medicine. But like, I take them too. But yeah, in nature, they're parasites. They're parasitic fungi, and their role is to balance populations so that no one type of insect will take over and dominate. Because remember, when there's only one, that is actually not good for the whole system. That leads to a lack of resilience. Right?
So you're saying in another form, cordyceps can like do that to insects. They're not going to harm humans in their living form. So we're eating the fruit of the cordyceps.
Yes.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
That sounds like a weird thing. Like, what is? There's these fungi are so powerful in like so many different functions.